There was beautiful natural light over here a second ago, and then the sun went behind the clouds. Artificial lighting it is then. Hi everyone. My name is Crystal the Cottage Witch, and today we're doing an impromptu video on protection in witchcraft. I just realized whenever I do things, I like pose because I never know if I'm going to use that picture for the thumbnail, so I'm always like voguing by myself in my living room. Anyway, so today, like I said, we're going to touch base on a practice that is essential, and that is protection. Now, protection in witchcraft isn't just about like warding off negative energy or like harmful forces. It's about creating safe and sacred space. It's for your energy to thrive. So, what does protection mean in witchcraft? Oh, is the natural light coming back? So protection in witchcraft is multifaceted. At its core, it's like instantly thought of as like the practice of shielding yourself, your loved ones, and your sacred space from multiple different things. A lot of people like instantly jump to like negative and harmful entities and like unwanted influences. Oh man, maybe I should have scripted this, but I just want to personally say the way that protection is like talked about and thrown around seems kind of fear mongering to me. I understand like having caution when you're like opening yourself up to a new belief system or like a new way of life, but there is a difference between realistic caution versus the straight up projecting fear like onto others and projecting your belief as fact and just kind of spreading misinformation that way. A lot of things are cleansings, but they're bypassed off as protection. Now, when you're doing any form of protection magic, you do want to clear and cleanse first. You know, you clear first, then you cleanse, then you put up your protections, then you put up your shields, and then you place your wards. Which, you know, don't get me wrong, that's great advice. It's always good to cleanse. That's a great base and a great way to start. You always want to cleanse before you protect, but cleansing isn't protection in of itself. You know what I mean? I think like the reason why cleansings are mentioned as protections and like why it's so common now to see cleansings labeled as protection is because of like how witchcraft has been viewed recently. Okay, like witchcraft kind of blew up within like the last few years. Sorry, I have to sit at a weird angle on my couch because my tripod is broken, because if I sit down normally, this is what I look like. But like in recent years, since like witchcraft has kind of blown up and a lot of people have come forward with like their practice, come out of the broom closet, and it's kind of like garnered attention and other people are like, wow, this looks interesting. I've always wanted to try this. It's kind of, you know, since witchcraft basically has become more accessible, I should say, and with witchcraft being blown up, you may have noticed that the main thing to come out of witchcraft were domination workings. In other words, people wanting to control others through jinxes, through hexes, through curses, through love spells, getting revenge on a specific person because, you know, they didn't like them, which whatever, to each their own, or just wanting like crazy amounts of money and trying to control that influence of things. You notice that a lot of the protection advice turned into cleansing. I kind of think that's like how they got confused and lumped in as one and the same. Like they do go together, but cleansing something isn't the same thing as imbuing it with protection. That is just cleaning it, cleansing it, removing all the impurities and stuff like that. You still have to put something there afterwards to make sure it doesn't come back up. They kind of just tell you to buy some crystals, you know, like have the crystals do it for you versus trying to tell you how to do it. Do you know what I mean? I hope this is making sense. This is probably just making me sound like such an asshole. And I don't want you to think that there's like something wrong with crystals. I love crystals. I collect crystals. It is my name. But if you're like, you know, buying your crystals for protection and that's what your form of protection is, just buying crystals, or maybe just laying down some salt for protection, you're also selling yourself short and kind of like trapping yourself in a cage in a way. And you are worth protecting. So put a little bit more effort into it, you know what I mean? If you're like trying to advance and learn things, you can never go wrong with protection magic and self-preservation. Speaking of the self, let's kind of like go into like the like types of groups that I've seen when it comes to like protection magic being discussed and like the way people view protection. Now this list is non-exhaustive. I'm just trying to go with like 3 main types that like I noticed. But there are, like for the first group, there's like a chunk of people who like basically they're the people where they're constantly thinking that they're jinxed or hexed or cursed, or someone is conspiring against them, or even like their partner. Like hopefully you know what I mean. I feel like I'm just sounding so mean, but I don't like preying on people, and I don't like fear mongering. I like it when people take control of their lives and have power and just are reminded that they are amazing. You know what I mean? They'll do all these things to basically amp up all that protection around them, and that is the type of protection that they're looking for or from. Then there's the other side of the cauldron, where people might think that they're more prone to spiritual attacks because they practice witchcraft. So it makes them very uneasy, you know, like if they use tarot cards and they think something might have come through the tarot cards. They bought a crystal and now they kind of feel like, oh, I feel like something. It's always kind of like a spirit thing, not like other people sending energy, but it's normally like a spirit kind of thing that they're always looking for like protection from. And that makes them feel uneasy, and that's what they want protection from. And then lastly, we have the group that like, you know, tries to look out for bad luck or like bad thoughts, or maybe they want to keep some kind of like gossipy people away from them, and they want to keep away like ill will and keep away like ill health and like, you know, those types of things, while knowing they can't prevent everything. So they'll do protections to try and help with that. I kind of feel like that's been like my experiences when it comes to people talking to me about protection, asking about protection, or just coming across other conversations about protection in witchcraft in my circles. There's some kind of like obviously like one-offs, but I feel like those are like the main categories. Protection is always kind of like just used as like a defense against others. But it's not just about defense. It's also about creating an energetic barrier that nurtures and strengthens your spirit. Now, the main reason why protection in magic is so important is because it's for you. I could already hear a bunch of you saying, well, obviously, Crystal, we know this, duh. But I'm gonna say it again. And when I say it again, I want you to really listen to what I am saying. And I want you to really think about it, okay? Protection in magic is so important because it is for you. Magic and energy are destabilizing. When you start working with like witchcraft or energy, sorry, there are kids screaming outside. I don't know if you could hear that. But when you start working with like witchcraft or energy for like the very first time, or like maybe the first times that you did some spells, or maybe certain workings, or if you did a really big working, you might have felt like drained or really tired afterward. Or maybe you get like that after very certain workings. And I'm not talking about grounding right here. I'm talking about something completely separate. Because if you're feeling like this, maybe you've like questioned the outcome of the spell that you did. When you're working with magic, energy, the occult, you are changing your perception. You are changing your reality. You are changing your world. Even if it's your very first time trying it out, you can be standing there, waiting there with like bated breath, curious just to see like what happens, if anything's gonna happen. Maybe something happened, or maybe it didn't. But for the majority of people in that specific moment, they are changing their perception for the first time to see if magic is possible. And they are giving it that chance in that moment. They're making themselves open to a brand new possibility, which can get you feeling all different types of ways. And I don't mean that in a way where you're walking and opening yourself up to dark energy and like all that jazz. That is not what I mean by that. Now, think of a time where you saw or you heard like a new viewpoint or like a new piece of information that changed the way that you saw something. It might have felt weird, or maybe it felt enlightening, like seeing it in that way. It was profound enough for it to permanently alter your view on it. The biggest reason why protection in magic is so important is because of you. Protection magic is to protect you. I don't want to say like protect you from yourself, because like I know a big chunk of you guys won't fall into that like type of category. But if that kind of helps click it in place in a way, well, you could think parallel to that. You know what I mean? One of the primary purposes of protection in witchcraft is to shield and preserve conserve our own energy. As witches, we tap into like other like forces and energies all the time in our practice. If we don't have like a form of protection in place for ourselves at some point, some of us can become drained or just straight up use a good portion of our own energy in the working. Again, I don't mean just grounding and shielding, and centering. I think that there's a big old thick wall between being drained from working on a spell versus kind of like what we touched on earlier, where you're being spiritually vulnerable, because the spiritual vulnerability is a huge argument in protection, because they'll basically say you'll be attacked and attached onto by dark entities each time that you do a spell when there is no protection put in place. What about the witches who work in them and they're like, okay, I hope so, like that's the point. So I'm gonna give my opinion on this. This is my opinion on this. This isn't a fact, but becoming spiritually vulnerable without magical protection for each spell that you do isn't at the top of my chain of beliefs. I personally believe you don't have to do that for every single thing that you do, every little spell that you're doing. You know what? I have an example of this, okay? All right, let's say you are doing a money working. Sorry, I'm trying not to laugh during this whatsoever, just because this is an example based off of a real life scenario. But you were making a money bowl with rice and everything else like that. And then all of a sudden afterwards you got really, really drained after you did your money bowl. For me, how I would view this, okay? I would view it as your worry of money is severely stressing you out. One, obviously because you made a money bowl for it, but still, you know what I mean? Just hear me out. Your stress of money made you put your all into the spell. So now you're emotionally fatigued from the stress, and now you're physically drained because you put so much energy and intention and everything of yourself into the spell that you're just kind of worn out from everything, instead of pulling from a proper power source, which we'll get into a second with like some little tips, because obviously I'm going to give you tips. But too much of that versus working with the energies that you have there. For example, if you're working with certain herbs, instead of connecting with the herbs of the spell and everything that you're doing, you're just trying to pull forth energy from everywhere. If you're working with certain crystals, instead of pulling and working with the energy of those crystals, you're pulling from yourself. If you're working with a candle, instead of just meditating into the candle flame, you're not using any energy from that candle, you're using it from yourself. Do you know what I mean? But that is how I would view it. With your stress, you're just emotionally and mentally fatigued and stressed and drained, and it's not because an icky entity is trying to attach itself to you. It's so are you on a Thursday night on a on a full moon, throwing your rice into your like rice money bowl like Salt Bay, and then it was like, yep, that one, I'm gonna dive right in there, and it attached itself to you, and yep, that is why you're drained. Okay, can we just think about that for a second, please? Let's address the elephant in the room. Rice is the #1 spirit trap. And beans, which could also be used in money magic, like rice and beans were like the #1 spirit trap. There is a whole holiday dedicated to using rice and beans as spirit trap, as the common basic folklore belief comes from two sides. The first one being they cannot move past all the rice and beans without counting them for the first half of it. And then the second half is that rice and beans were seen as extensions of the actual physical soul that can feed or distract the entities. That is why we have the holiday Lemuria. That is why Lemuria exists, to use these spirit traps on these days with the main ingredients for prosperity like workings. None of it makes sense. And I'm only using this one as an example because some woman was saying this to a group of teenagers one time at one of the events that I was at. They were looking to buy money rice, and they were asking about a rice bowl and all this other stuff, and she was selling like crystals and things like that. Again, nothing wrong with these. I'm just going off of this example. But then she like clutched her shawl around her, and then she went into like this weird ass tale about how when she was doing her money magic, and then as soon as she was putting the rice in the bowl, like she got attacked and possessed by a demon, and like this was the crystal that saved her, and they shouldn't be looking into doing a money magic bowl. They should be looking into buying crystals crystals. I hate fear mongering. I hate fear mongering so much. I can't stand it. I can't. Why would they were a group of teenagers just trying? I'm probably yelling into this microphone. I'm so sorry. They were just a group of teenagers just kind of being like, yeah, we want to, get into witchcraft. Money's safe. Let's practice some money magic. Maybe we could have some extra money to do some things. Who knows? Who cares? Tell me you don't look into correspondence without telling me you don't look into correspondence. Sorry. I just really hate fear mongering. I'm trying to turn this not into a rant. Let's continue. When we're practicing witchcraft and the occult, we are surrounded by various energies. And sometimes it doesn't even matter when you're in witchcraft and the occult, but when you're working with energies, you kind of pick up on it a bit more. Some are negative, some are positive. Protection helps prevent any harmful influences from entering our space, whether they're from negative people, environment, ourselves, or entities. Protection isn't just about defense, like I said before. It's also about creating a safe space for magic too, where you want your magic to flow. Creating a protected, sacred space allows energy to move freely and with purpose. Protection magic can also be its own act of healing. Like if you experience trauma or a psychic attack or just regular emotional exhaustion, using protection rituals can help you potentially restore and fortify your energy. Inserting the same reminder here, magical advice is not medical advice. You can use magic alongside medical and medicine, but please never replace medicine with magic. Okie dokie? I want you all to take care of yourselves. Speaking of, why don't you have a water or a juice break? I've been talking for a while. There we go. Okay, anyway. So in the modern world, protection magic has evolved. The way I say it with my accent always makes it sound like we're involved in this when it's involved. You know what I mean? It's not just about warding off curses and spirit. Although it still can serve that purpose. It's about creating balance in our hectic, often chaotic lives. As witches, we need to protect ourselves, not just from physical threats, which is our basic looking out for ourselves, but our emotional and magical and mental selves as well. Like I said before, today protection magic can take on lots of different forms. From lighting incense to wearing and carrying around amulet to using crystals or visualizing a shield. Visualizing a shield, oh my gosh. It's about understanding that we are vulnerable, not just to physical threats, but to emotional drainers. Again, not negative spirits, but just being able to be aware that you can be drained emotionally. You could be around toxic energy and toxic people. And even the influence of social media and negative thought patterns. I moved my camera. Hopefully this whole entire time I've been staring at the lens. If not, I'm just gonna be hello. All I want is for you to craft your own practice and for you to grow, and that means questioning things and learning more. We're always learning and we're always growing. There is no expert in all of these things, and if they say they have all the answers, that's a huge red flag. Every person that we meet is going to know something that we don't, regardless if they've been practicing for a day, if they've been practicing for a year, No one is an expert, and that's good. Because if there was an expert, it would mean that there is a glass ceiling and a place where the craft would end. This world, the craft, the knowledge, the way things can be done, and you are always growing and expanding. And that's a beautiful thing. Don't forget. Sorry, I'm all over the place in this video. I've been training people during these 12-hour days, so I'm constantly teaching and talking about things, so I don't even know if my brain is a brain anymore. Now, all right, let's dive into the different types of protection magic and what they can look like in practice. We'll break them down into emotional, spiritual, and physical protection, which is essential to the overall well-being. And when I say physical, I mean it as a physical act or a physical form of protection, not something to keep you safe from physical harm. I have to say that because otherwise it makes me think of a video, and I don't know if anybody else has seen this video. It's a protection, using energy to protect yourself from physical harm video clip. I forget where it's from, but it's a guy telling a woman and all these other practicers, they put up this energetic shield. Oh my gosh, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm gonna put in the clip right here. This is for educational and commentary purposes underneath the Fair Use Act, whatever it is. I might have to flip the video so you can see it. But watch this real quick.
Breathe in, pull the energy in. Pull it down, and push the energy out the hand. Big breath. More power, more power, more passion, more power. Big. Look into the hands. Good. Good. Yes, Magnus, good. Good. You want to defend? Oh, got you. As soon as you see me move, everything you got in there, you push it out.
Well, can we do it?
We can do it.
Hold on. Let's go.
Sure. You ready? Yes, come here. You stand here, and Magnus and Rebecca, you prepare her.
Okay, you ready to join us in the circle?
That is not what I mean by physical protection. Capiche? Don't do that. Oh my god, I can never get over that clip though. Oh my gosh. All right, let's start with emotional protection, okay? As witches, we know our emotions are powerful and they can be easily influenced by external forces. Emotional protection helps shield ourselves from negative emotions and energy and psychic vampires and situations that can make us feel drained and overwhelmed. So let's give some examples, right? We're going to start out with like the very, very, very basics, which you probably or may have heard before adding in some new things afterwards and some things with a twist. Or maybe you haven't heard of these or you just never really used them before. We'll see. It's just always good to go back to the basics because they're the basics and foundations for a reason. A simple but yet effective technique is picturing a shield of light surrounding you. Imagine it being a solid barrier, keeping out unwanted emotional energy, whether it's from you or other people. Some people also like zip themselves up from like the bottom of their feet over to the top of their head whenever they're leaving their house, because sometimes mimicking something is so much easier for people who can't visualize things. So if you're a person who struggles with visualization or you just can't visualize things, I forgot the name of it, I'm going to pop in the name right here, but if you have this could potentially help you. Since you can't visualize anything, just do the action of zipping yourself up. That way nothing can get into your barrier. So let's look at spiritual protection. Spiritual protection focuses like on safeguarding your aura and energetic field and your energetic body. This form of protection is to help you avoid psychic attacks, spiritual influences, and draining energies or entities. So let's do some basics of spiritual protection. Some of them I've already kind of talked about again because it is what is familiar to a lot of people. One of like the most common and basic forms of spiritual protection in like witchcraft is casting a circle before any ritual, any type of spell. Again, it does not have to be in like the Wiccan sense. You can envision white light surrounding you. You could do it with crystals. You could do it with candles. You could do it with salt. You could do it anything like that. But that is one form that people can cast a circle that is not like in the Wiccan way. But that way, that circle provides a sacred and protected space where only positive energies are allowed to enter. Like I said, I'm going to give you some examples of other things at the end besides like the very, very basic ones. So I'm going to give you my own tips and tricks for this afterwards. You can also lay a compass. Like if you're not familiar with like laying a compass, to like super duper quickly sum this up. Do you know what an atom looks like? You know, picture an atom. You would be the nucleus of the atom, that big circle in the middle of it. And then all these rings reach out to different realms and different planes. And depending on the traditional belief that it's from, because they do vary, because other traditional beliefs use a compass, but some of their planes might be a little bit different. But basically, you are going to these other planes and elements versus in a circle where you're calling them to you. In a compass, you're physically, well, not physically, you are spiritually and energetically going there compared to when you're physically casting a circle and you're calling in the elements to work with you. Laying a compass, you go there, you are the nucleus, you are the center, it extends everywhere, outwards, inwards, all within all planes of existence, compared to a circle where you're bringing everything to come and work with you in your space. But then you could also do certain prayers and invocations. You could call upon divine or spiritual allies to protect you. Ancestors, deities, even your higher self asking for spiritual protection straightens your connection with, like, with the spiritual realm of things. Now let's go to physical protection real quick. Again, not from physical harm.
Okay, you ready to join us in the circle?
But this is the physical act of adding things to your physical form to help protect you. Like, things can definitely look out for your physical form and, like, watch over you if that's your belief, or protect you or look out for you in other forms. But do not rely on magic alone to keep you safe. You know what I mean? While spiritual and emotional protection work on an energetic level, physical protection kind of like somewhat influences your physical reality. You know what I mean? Because you're doing a physical act of something. Super simple stuff like making sigils or protection on your conditioner bottles or your body lotions or oils. Since they go on the body, they're coating and they're being absorbed into the body or into the hair. That way that element of protection gets absorbed in there too. Like, if you want to start off first, you could put like cleansing sigils and protection on like your shampoos and body wash, since that is the physical act of cleansing. So if you want to just up it up a notch a little bit, you can do that. But then for the actual protection spot, do it on something that actually gets absorbed and doesn't get washed off after. If you're going to do like start from like the very basics of like your shower, you can make your own necklaces, bracelets, shirt, hair pieces, and headbands, sigils on the bottom of your shoes, rings, bracelets, buttons, veils, head wraps, things like that. You know what I mean? Okay, so now that we got like those common ones out of the way, let's touch back on those previous ones and add like a little bit of additional things that we could do. So let's start back with emotional protection while still making it somewhat simple. Like I said, I want to come back to this video and expand upon it a lot more, but we'll keep it kind of simple, but still giving you enough power within to hold the reins to govern which way you want your practice to go. For emotional and spiritual energy, you can make a candle power source. I know, so simple, right? Woo! But seriously, if you already work on grounding and centering and shielding, but still get drained and tired, or maybe it's the other end of the spectrum where you feel like you take too much energy and you have too much energy after working, and then you're all like amped up like me right now. I'm exhausted, so I've been drinking coffee, so I'm just kind of like but still tired. You know what I mean? It's like a meme that perfectly sums it up right now. I'm like, but again, if you feel like that could be you, again, this also could help you as well. And this can work with both battery operated candles, because there is a literal battery powering up the candle, because you can use battery operated candles in your practice. There is a continuous power source on that candle. If it's not safe for you to leave candles burning or unattended, there is a literal power source tied to that candle. Just saying. But you could do this with a battery powered candle, or you could do this with a regular candle. You would take the candle or the crystals or whatever charm that you decide to work with if you want to do something a little bit different, and you want to really connect with it. You're working on energy sensing and energy manipulation, which I feel like is completely vital for when you're first starting out, and I feel like everyone kind of forgets about it after we've been in the practice for a while. It's insanely important for you to know energy sensing and energy manipulation, because it lets you know when you're actually physically connecting to a spell and using like a lot of your own energy or anything else like that. It helps you know your own energy. That way it's easier for you to tell when your energy is off. But you're going to picture your energy, your aura, your essence, whatever you refer to it as, connecting to the item. See what it feels like. Let it meet your energy. Let it get to know your energy. See what that energy feels like. Just really try and connect with it. Now, if this is hard for you, we could do a little shortcut. Now, if you wear a certain scent all the time, and if it's like your favorite scent, if it's a battery operated candle, you could spray it on that candle. That way it connects to you. You could put your lotion or body oil on it, whatever. If it's a physical candle, you can inscribe your name on it or anoint it with your favorite body oils or your favorite scent. Don't spray your favorite perfume on it though, because a lot of them do contain alcohol, which is highly flammable. But you can anoint it with like your favorite smell or your favorite herb. You could physically put the herb on it, or your favorite plant. You can put the candle in it that way. Maybe put a little bit of instant coffee on it too. You could do it very, very basic where you put some olive oil on it for coating and then put some instant coffee grounds all up on that candle. You know what I mean? For the energy boost. Or as gross as it may sound, you could put your fingernail clippings and stick your fingernail clippings in the candle. And since we're talking about gross things anyway, this one's going to sound really gross too, but like if you're working with crystals, these are not going to be inserted anywhere, so don't worry. But if you're working with crystals, next time you clean out your hairbrush and you have to clean your hair out of it, take the crystals and put them on top of all the hair that you discarded from your hairbrush. I know it sounds so gross, but it's a way to establish that connection, like that tag lock of you, and establish that energy source getting to know you and those energy sources intermingling. So you could focus on drawing from that instead of drawing from yourself. If like it's really hard for you to find your limit, but when you're working on like whatever working that you're doing, focus on taking energy from that source and not you, or working on connecting that energy to your energy. That way you don't get as depleted. You have like another power source to help you up. And if you don't want to work on that per se, and let's say you want to work on grounding, and again, grounding is very hard for you, or maybe you're just not good on visualization, because again, a lot of that has to do with visualization, and there's a lot of people who struggle with that. After your spell work, take a little bit of salt, dab it on your tongue, then eat something sweet right after that. It's so simple, but it works. Both on a psychological one, from going from one extreme taste to the other, as well as an emotional and energetic one. You're bringing the grounding to you. For spiritual protection, my favorite form of it is insanely old and it's insanely simple, but it's always been my favorite and my go-to, and it works. But it's just thrice around, the circle's bound. Sink all evil beneath the ground. And you can say it 3 times. And you could also change it up to however you want. That way it could fit your practice. I always kept it the same, but you could change it up. You could say something like a thrice around, this light I found, sink all negativity beneath the ground. You know what I mean? You could also make up any quick chant that you want that is tailor-made to you. Or there's also the old custom of the sword and shield with your hands. You use your pointer finger of your dominant hand as the sword, and you put out your non-dominant hand like a shield. And you envision it as a sword and a shield. That way when you're doing any working, you could block any energy from coming too close to you, as well as cut away at it while you're actively doing working, or even when you're around other people. I will say though, sometimes if you get into something, you might just end up sticking out your hand completely in their face. I wonder if that's where talk to the hand came. No, it definitely didn't come from there, but it makes me think of that, like talk to the hand, that shield. It's kind of funny. But yeah, no, that works to like block and cut off energy before they have a chance to like attach to you and drain you. I know these are little examples because like I said, I want to do a more in-depth video with more ritualistic and like bigger formats. But before we do that, I want to make sure you guys have at least tried the very basics of protection. Or if you haven't, at least make you aware of like what you need to work on in order to further your own protection to tailor suit your needs. Cleansing and protection, go together, but they are not the same. And you'll notice that once you work on your actual protections more and kind of figuring out like what and where you need to work on, you won't have to do cleansings as often or as much. Since now you're taking care of your energy, you have good spiritual hygiene, which is important to make sure you're not using too much of yourself, or you're not draining too much of yourself, or willingly giving yourself to other forms of energy that may not deserve it. Because sometimes we drain ourselves by overthinking of the outcome of a spell and maybe not trusting the process. Or maybe we always revert back to thinking that someone else or something else has got to be the reason why we feel drained all the time, while not taking into account that we live in a very draining society right now. But either way, kind of like once you get back to that, you realize that there are not as many cleansings that you need to do. Again, cleansings and protections go hand in hand, but one is not a substitute for the other. You can clean your front door, but if you don't physically lock your front door, it won't protect you. And especially if you clean it and leave it unlocked, who knows, it might draw even more attention to it, because now it's going to stand out more. It's kind of like after you refresh your energy, after you have like a deep cleansing bath or anything else like that, or just a nice cleanse on yourself, and then afterwards you're around like maybe a certain coworker or like a family member or something like that you normally don't interact with because you know how they are, and they're always like, damn, you got some good energy, hold on, let me get some of that, here, hold this while I take yours. You know what I mean? If there's no protections in there, don't forget that no is also a protection spell. Just saying. But again, I hope this is making sense. Sometimes you could stand out more for doing cleansings. It doesn't make you automatically like a target for negative energies or negative entities. However, once we're kind of like in our moment and we feel brighter, we kind of shine brighter. And that can sometimes attract other things to us. Again, not negative energy, is just people who want to take advantage of you. Because it's also like a psychological thing that when someone's in a good mood and someone comes for them to help, it's very hard for the person in a good mood to turn the person down. You see what I mean? It doesn't mean that you can't be in a good mood. That is not what I'm saying. I'm just reminding you that no is a protection spell. I'm really hoping this is making sense, but anyway. Protection in magic is such an essential part of our practice. It's beyond just defense. It's maintaining your well-being on all levels. Emotional, spiritual, and physical. It's about setting boundaries. It's about creating safe spaces within yourself and granting it to yourself. Again, a lot of people self-sabotage. You are worthy of protecting. You are precious. Protect yourself. Look out for yourself. I can't be there behind your shoulder all the time, but like if I could, damn Skippy, I would be protecting you. But you should hold that same love and compassion for yourself. Look into other ways to protect yourself before we get into the bigger ones when that comes out into like a big long video. Just do them to empower yourself and stay grounded in your truth. Also, quick reminder, if you made the Phoenix Renewal Oil, this is your reminder to shake it up. You don't want to set it and forget it. Give your oil a shake after this video if you made that oil. Yeah, this was a spur of the moment video, and I probably left out a lot of things that I really wanted to mention because I had to start and stop this so many times because it's my only day off and the kids outside were yelling and I kept getting distracted, and I don't know if their screams were being picked up, and my work computer is doing its resets for the next week, so hopefully it's not too loud in the background. I hope this stayed on track long enough for you guys to like follow and get some information out of it, I hope, and at least understand that there are so many different layers and types of protection and how you can incorporate some of them into your daily practice. Like I said before, we move on to the bigger things. And if you have any questions about anything or your own tips for protection, please feel free, if you feel comfortable, leaving them down below for other people. Like I said, we're always learning and we're always growing. I know this is very basic, so you guys are probably going to drop more advanced things in here, but you can put whatever. Like I said, there's going to be like a more advanced and intermediate video that's going to be coming out on this at a later time, but I at least wanted a basic one out there. And if you like this video, which I really hope you did because it's all over the place, don't forget to actually like the video and feel free to hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free. You could unsubscribe at any time, but no pressure. But I hope you're having a wonderful day, night, evening, afternoon, energy space, wherever it may be when you are watching this. And I really truly hope that good things happen to you. Bye.